Hey, welcome, welcome. It's me again, Christina Carpenter. Thanks for joining me. So glad you're with me today. And today we will be discussing how prayer helps everything and how God can help in any situation you might be going through, and to be grateful for everything that God has given you, even in the past and going forward into the future. Continue to be grateful and thankful. And I want to talk about a time where I'm extremely grateful and thankful for what God has done for me. So this is a testimony that I just want to share. And long time ago, a little while back, I was once upon a time living with some roommates, had roommates, and at the time I was about to be moving out. And so I was getting prepared to move, and I was like, okay, I have to buy some boxes for packing up things. So I was going to go to the store and get some boxes. At the time, I didn't have a particular ride to get the boxes, so I took the bus to get the boxes. I went to the store, picked up my items. At the time, I had a little knapsack that I was using as my little purse, and it was a cute little bag that I had that I bought like online, and I loved this little bag, and I was like, oh, I love my bag. So I was just carrying my bag, went to buy my boxes, had my bag, and then I bought my little items. I bought the things that I needed, and I was proceeding to go back home. I took the bus, and on the bus, I just sat in the back row, just with like, I didn't want to be in anyone's way with my boxes, so I just sat in the back with my boxes. Got off the bus, proceeded to go home, had my stuff with me. Then I get to my front door, about to go inside. But then I realized, wait a second, I have my boxes, I have my purchases, but wait, I don't have my knapsack. OMG. This freaked me out. I was like, this is my worst nightmare right now. Where's my knapsack? I didn't realize somehow I must have gotten mixed up with everything I had in my hand. I didn't carry my knapsack. So I was like, this is crazy. What do I do? I must have left it somewhere on the bus. Proceeding, I said, okay, what should I do? I had to calm myself down and really think, what can I do? So then I was like, okay, let me go back to where I was. Maybe I dropped it. So I walked back to where I was, nothing there. I was like, okay, it's still on, it has to be still on the bus. So I was like, okay, how do I get to the bus? And I was like, okay, I found out that there was a bus station. At first I was like, okay, I have to report it, still it's lost. So I was like, where do I go? So I decided to go to a police station. The police station was like, "Oh, what's wrong?" I was like, "Oh, I think I left my bag on the bus." And it was like, "Oh, just go to the bus station." I was like, "Okay." So happenstance, thank God, there was actually a bus station very nearby. So I was like, "Okay." They said just go that way to the bus station. I was like, "Okay." So I went to the bus station. I got to the bus station, and they were like, "Oh, you left something on the bus." I was like, "Yeah, I left something on the bus." Okay, they was like, "Well, you have to wait till the bus does its route, and then when it comes back in, we'll see if it's still on the bus." I was like, "But then by then, someone will have taken it." So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, somebody's going to take my bag. But I was praying in my mind. I was like, God, please help me. This is serious because I'm about to move, and my bag has my phone, which has the information to talk to the person that I'm moving to, to talk to. So I'm like, okay, this is crazy. And so from there, I was just really I was a bit panicked. I was very panicked. I was like, okay, this is crazy. But I was at peace at the same time because I was like, God, you know what's going on right now, And so I was just in this sense of like, I'm going to trust God right now, and I'm just going to pray. And I'm just praying that everything works out. And so the guy was like, well, wait for the bus to come back. And he was super calm, like, just wait for the bus to come back and we'll see if it's on the bus. At the time, I lived in a fairly okay neighborhood. So I was like, okay, I'll just wait for it. So I went home and just was like, okay, what do I do? And I was like, I have to wait till the bus comes back. And he said the bus will comes back at a certain time. So I was like, okay, I'll have to come back at a certain time, which was later at night for the bus to come back. So I was like, so I was like really in between a rock and a hard place because I was like, should I go home? Should I wait at the bus stop and wait for the bus to come back? I wasn't sure. And so I decided to go back home, and I just went home. And when I went home, I happened to hear my roommate inside the house. And I was like, oh my gosh, my roommate's in the house. So he has the key. The person had the key. So I was like, okay, they opened the door for me, and I was like, thank you. And then they gave me the phone number for the landlord. So I'd at least have some phone numbers because I was like, everything's on my phone. And I just wanted to make sure people know what's going on. So then I was like, okay. So then I had the phone numbers, and then I was like, okay, in my house, I already had an iPad. So I was like, okay, I'll just get my iPad and just check everything and see where my phone is because I could track it. And thank God for Apple because Apple tracks, you can track where things are if you have Find My Phone. So I had the Find My Phone app. So I used the Find My Phone app to find the phone. And I realized that it was actually, after waiting an hour or two, it was actually back at the bus station. I was like, OMG, God is good. I was like, it's still at the bus station. So the bus had came back and it was there in the bus station. It showed up on the bus station. I was like, God is amazing. I was just so overjoyed. So I went back to the bus station because it wasn't far. So I was like, let me go back to the bus station. So I went back to the bus station and I was like, hi, my phone is here. It's showing up on my iPad that my phone is here and I need to get my phone. And they were like, okay, well, you just have to wait because they have to inspect all the buses first and go through all the buses. And I was like, really? And it was like, yeah, we just have to wait. You just have to wait. And I was like, okay. And then it happened to be that someone else was at the bus stop at the same time as me saying that they had left something on the bus as well. And they were also waiting for someone to give them information if it was still on the bus. And I was like, we were both waiting at the same time. And then someone else had came up and they were talking about something they left on the bus. And it was like a whole thing. So I was waiting, they were waiting. And I was just like praying in my mind, like, God, please help me. This is serious. Like, I'm supposed to be moving. Things are working out for me. And now all of a sudden I leave my phone. Like, this is crazy. But the good thing was that I had hope because of the Find My Phone app was telling me that it was there. So I was like, okay, it's here, it's here. So it's not, so no one took it. So thank God for that. And I was so grateful, like grateful, so grateful. And so I'm waiting there at the bus station. The guy's all calm and everything, and everybody's just like standing around like we have to wait. And then a lady stands, as I was standing there waiting, a bus driver was walking out and she saw me like looking kind of worried. And she said, is everything okay? I was like, yeah, well, they told me I have to wait for them to inspect the bus because I left my phone on my bag with my phone on the bus. And it was like, oh, really? And she said, let me go check. So she decided to go back in. She said she was off her shift and she was going home, but she said, let me go check for you. I was like, oh, thank God, somebody's going to check for me. And she checked and she went back. She went back. She was like, what bus was it that you left? And I was like, it was this bus. And then she said, she was like, I'm going to go check because I was just waiting. They were like, oh, you have to wait for them to inspect all the buses. So she said she was going to go check. So she went to go check. And then the next thing I know, like 5 minutes later, she was walking back with my bag. I was like, oh my Lord, thank you. Thank you. I was so freaked out. And it was just like you losing a child. You know how you lose. I was so grateful. And she brought my bag to me and I had everything in my bag still there. I was like, this is crazy. It was a little knapsack and it was just like, I just told her it was a certain type of knapsack and it was in the bus and she took it. She brought it to me. She said, here it is. I was like, thank you. And the guy was like, oh, she gave it to you. I was like, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I got what I need. And I left. And I was so grateful. And then I was able to go back home, get in the house. I had my iPad, I had everything. And everything was like God worked it out for me. So that's a testimony of God working things out for you. Like things were coming together. And just at that very moment that things were coming together and I was getting ready to move and everything, this little scare happened and it just really freaked me out. But God just gave me favor with someone to look for me. And them going and looking for me was like such a blessing because she saved me time. She actually went and cared about what I was going through. And she went and looked for me and took her time out of her busy day. She was ready to go home. And she went and checked for me and brought it to me. And I was so grateful for her help. And the other people were still standing there waiting, like, when are we going to find out what happened to our stuff is still inside. So that was a blessing. And everything just went from there like smoothly. I had my phone with all my communications, like with the move and everything, because I was making plans. I had all my plans in my phone. So it's like God just worked that out. So that was a blessing for me because my anxiety was through the roof for a second, but then I had to calm my anxiety and just pray. And the prayer is what I believe helped the situation. So if you're going through like a sudden crisis or something just comes and gets out of hand and seems crazy all of a sudden, like this is crazy, this is insane, what do? I don't know what to do. Just lift your hands to God and just give it to God, give it to him, and he can work it out because he worked out that situation for me, giving me favor, first of all, because my roommate happened to be home to let me in so I can go and get my iPad to check where my phone was so I can not be so worried about it because I could find out that it was where it needed to be back at the bus station. So I was able to go back to the bus station thank God for the Apple products that tells you where things are so you can communicate with your products. So it's always good to have like those apps where it's find my things, like helping you to find your phone. So that was grateful for that help. That was helpful. Like God worked it out with the roommate being there, letting me in the house, then getting because usually they're not there at the time. So I was like, I was usually always the one home. So when they were there, they were like able to let me in so I can get my, check out where my phone is, be able to go back, find my phone, and then explain to someone the situation. And then them getting the heart to feel like empathy for me and go check for me and be able to give me what I needed so that I could move on with my life. God was so good. And that is just a testimony of how he worked that situation out. And I just say, like, if there is a crisis in your life, give it to God, pray about it, and let him work it out. Let him, work in your favor for that situation, because he can do it, and he will do it if it's, if he's already been moving and shaking in your life, moving and doing blessing after blessing. Just continue to trust that he will continue to bless you, even in the midst of a crisis, and even in the midst of a mistake or whatever the case may be. That was my mistake, leaving it there because on the bus, because I did have a lot of things in my hand, and I didn't factor in the fact that my bag was kind of small, and I didn't think about it, and I left it. So, but God was working in my favor in that situation. I don't know if it's ever going to happen as well as it did in that situation, but that was God's favor on my life, and I'm just so grateful for it. And just letting you know, whatever crisis you might be handling in the month, in the year, just continue to trust God and let him work it out. And that's all for now for my story time. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you on another video.